Hey all, Tobes here, back playing some more Planet Zoo and back in the dome. So episode 10, goodness me, there's been a few of these episodes. Someone asked me the other day, what's the piece count on this build so far? I have no idea. It's pretty massive though, it's definitely getting pretty massive. Don't know if there's a way to check the overall piece count, but yeah, you can see even from this flooring and stuff that it's getting pretty crazy. Still working reasonably alright for me, so but be warned if you're someone who's downloading this from the workshop. I'd imagine for some people this is going to be a little heavy on the piece count. So we are continuing working today on the jaguar habitat, and it is getting close to being done. Still not quite done. I think we've got one more section to do before this is kind of the interior finished in this dome. So you were working on the other side, getting them back towards the backstage area because I wanted to continue the idea that kind of feeding and parts of the habitat are behind the scenes. So we're working on really here the kind of getting the kind of integration. I think we're probably now finished one side. There'll probably be a bit more of a detailing pass. I tend to go back and kind of fiddle with things and add a few more bits and pieces, some detail. So here's something I did a lot of, which actually really makes a big difference. Actually, just feels like it softens the edges up, adds some sort of real authenticity to some of this temple build that I did before. So just adding all these little tiny ivy pieces into these little nooks and crannies and the detailing, and that, as I said, it just kind of makes it feel a bit more organic. Really, just feel a bit more kind of lived in and developed, a bit more established. So there's quite a bit of this going on. And as you'll see, I've put a couple of refreshment stands in. I think it's just a chief beef and a pip shot water in to one side of the structure, and this is actually going to form the back side of the jaguar habitat. You'll see that you may have just caught a glimpse of it, but I've moved the digger out finally from the dome. If you haven't seen one of these episodes before as well, what I always say is there's always a speed build section. At the beginning, I'll blather all the way through this speed build section just to let you know what I'm doing, describe what I'm doing. But there's also a real-time section towards the end of the video, and that is where we do a tour. And I always say this, but I think it's kind of important to mention it. There's lots of details and things that get changed between the speed build and between the real-time tour. So quite often I haven't quite got it to the point where we see by the time we go and do the real-time tour. So there's a bit of logic to that, partly because there's just too much footage really, and I think it just kind of works better when I sort of explain some of the reasons behind some of the things. So this is the first bit where we're kind of working on this other door. So this is the side entrance, or I guess the exit for the guest flow. And this is just this was sort of playing with the idea of it being doesn't quite look right, but it's a sort of implied almost like a cattle grid sort of thing. So we do have obviously most of the animals are in their own confined habitats. It does seem a bit of a tendency for my capuchin monkeys to go wandering at the moment, and we have a bit of an issue with that, and I'll show you that in the real-time section. I think something has changed with the traversable areas, and that's meaning that my monkeys are escaping a lot easier. But the capuchins have always been a bit of a problem, but I think they are actually supposed to be able to be used as a walk-in habitat for guests. So I'm sort of not really stressing too much about the fact that they can get out of their enclosure. I've turned all the alarms off in this because it's a sandbox build, and sometimes there are just kind of these little eccentricities in the game that mean that things are able to escape where they really shouldn't be able to. I'll show you some of that later on. So we're adding a load more sort of paving in and integrating this back in. Again, using all this kind of little bits of ivy just to soften these edges off. I think I had some of this in the last episode, and I did say that it just felt like it was a bit flat. So what I did was put some extra colours in there. You see some of the bricks are slightly different colours, and I bumped up a couple of them, changed the kind of layout and things. And this is something that I'll show you briefly in the speed build. Actually, I can't remember how much of this is in the speed build, but we'll see. This is supposed to be a water tank. I came across a few little weird eccentricities with the way the water behaves, which I have done before. I've worked with the water before in these kind of water tank type things, and had sort of forgotten that there seems to be kind of a fixed height that the water must stick to. Like, you can't have it kind of any height. It always has to be a certain level off of the top of the glass barrier that you're using. So as you can see, we're right up against the start of the ant exhibit here. So we're quite close down that side to bringing everything together down this edge. This is just me. It's supposed to be, I mean, again, you'll see this more in the real-time section, but this is supposed to be more, again, another kind of implied exhibit, something that we haven't got in the game that I've sort of taken the liberty of looking on the workshop and adding in. So this is going to be a red-bellied piranha tank. Sort of more of just a filler really than anything else, because I wanted something to go in here that was fairly small. Continue some of this sort of pattern work that I'd used before, a bit further around this side. And it sort of works alright. I'll have to make sure I remember to credit the blueprint creator for this. So I'll make sure I've got that name by the time we do the real-time section. So that won't be long in a minute for you guys. But yeah, really good little blueprint that they created that works really well. It's a bit big. You're a bit sort of forced to use the sizes that are in the game. You know, the pieces that are in the game aren't really small enough to use to be able to make a suitably sized fish, let's say. So yeah, this was the start of this. There's a lot more of the detailing of this actually gets finished in the real-time section. Just adding the tank in, just trying to create something. Again, it's just a bit of a focal point. This needs a lot of its education section. What I've done, that seems to be often seems to be one of the final passes that I do, is that I go back and add some of the kind of detailing education areas in. That seems to have been the theme. I'm getting quite close to the end of this build, I have to say. Not this particular build, but the overall dome project. I don't think I'm going to be... I can't imagine there's more than about 2 or 3 episodes left. We shall see. As you'll have probably seen, I'm generally pretty slow. I'm fairly... Yeah, I'd say I have a preference for detailing rather than extensive builds. So I hope that kind of works with you guys. It seems to have been that this has gone down pretty well, better than anything I've done in Planet Zoo before. So that's all good. Okay, so this is where we're back to the Jaguars. So if you saw it in the previous episodes, these tunnels I've used allow the Jaguars to move through them. They are getting a little bit glitchy. There's some weird things, and maybe we'll see this in the real-time section, but the Jaguars, if they don't perfectly animate along the pole, they can kind of end up just kind of, you may have seen this in your own zoos, but kind of levitating, which is a bit weird. And it is part of the climbing mechanics. It's that the climbing mechanic doesn't perfectly work every time. And there's some eccentricities in the way that, yeah, if you're linking 2 climbing poles together, sometimes they kind of struggle with that. And obviously, in order to get a suitable kind of length here, I'm having to link more than one pole together. So you see, this is where I'm starting to move into the backstage area. So alongside what we did previously with the crocodiles and with the monkeys, as I said, the idea was to have the leopards have the jaguars have a backstage feeding section. There's going to actually be 2 jaguar habitats, kind of again sort of organically overlapping and sort of threading themselves around each other. That's partly because I just really love them and they're really awesome looking animals in the game, but also they're only supposed to be in pairs. They are actually an animal that has quite a large territory demand. Again, this is another really cool workshop blueprint which we'll talk about more in the real-time section. It's like a cool storage which I thought looked really cool. So yeah, we'll talk about this more in the real-time section. I think I'm probably going to leave you. I've blabbered on too much as we see our jaguars both perfectly coming into their new area. I will probably leave you for the rest of this speed build. It's about a minute or 2 left. And then I will join you again for the tour and I'll talk you through the bits we haven't seen. Right peeps, welcome to the tour. So as ever we are a small group of VIP visitors allowed in the dome. We're starting from the outside again, just want to talk to you briefly about this entranceway again. Let's zoink through the door. So again, nothing's done in here yet, but I think this is going to be the next episode. I think I'm going to do some sort of diorama or something. So nothing major new there. As ever, we can potentially expect to see monkeys running around on the loose. I will come back and explain that to you in a little bit. So let's go left first. We can see the monkeys walking over the head as ever, doing their business. So I just want to show you this bit still is the same as it was last episode, so nothing has moved on here. We've still got to complete this. It still needs to push on down. We're going to go the other way, so we'll zoom all the way around, past the birds, past the tapirs, through the whatever we called that bit, the grotto. That's it. That's right. Past the tapir section. Have a quick check on our anteaters. They seem to be happy. And we can starting to hear the sounds of the jaguars already from this point, which is really cool. I think the point at which you start to see it, so you start to see it here. So this is stuff we'd seen in the last episode. We won't see them on their island yet. So we just push on down here. patrol. I love the sounds of it all, guys. That's definitely one of my favourite things. Sort of that ambient sounds. And as I talked about in the last episode, one of the things I was really kind of trying to create in this was this idea of the fact that you were never entirely sure where the jaguars would be. And this whole idea of the overhead tunnels and the different sections of the habitat was to encourage the guests to kind of move around. We see a jaguar up there. Encourage the guests to kind of move around and explore the habitat themselves, and in some cases they wouldn't necessarily know where the jaguars are, but you can just hear them. So we know there's one over there on the island, but we'll carry on this way I think for a second. So here's my red belly piranhas. As you see, I put a bunch of, this is actually water. It's not super obvious that it's water. And yeah, thank you very much to the blueprint creator of this, name on screen. And all of these things, as well as all of my items, are all in the collection as ever. There's a collection linked in the description. So we've got a little staff room here. This is supposed to be the kind of back access to this tank. Move on around here. And then this is all started to come together a lot now. So we had this in the last episode, but added some detailing in. Yeah, it's looking really rich now, I have to say. It's all starting to come together. Added a few more kind of education boards in. As you saw in the speed build, we did a couple of shops. So we've got a chief beef and a pip shop. Water. Another staff entrance there. So that's supposed to be the back access into these shops. And what we'll do is we'll do a little walk around in Tegid Cam. And then we'll do a bit of a flyover, because it's been a few episodes actually since we've done an aerial view. So there's me spiders, a bit of education about, it's supposed to be about webs and stuff, but I think this needs a bit more. I think I need a bit more education stuff, a few more of the kind of interactive bits in here. Right, we can hear our jaguar. Sounds like it's close. There it is. So apart from the slightly derpy animation, oh, he's going to chill out up there as well. I do think that's cool. I had to close off some of this before because I looked at, they wouldn't actually escape over that according to the game, but I just felt like it was a little bit unrealistic. This section is going to be the second jaguar habitat, so the second pairing will go in there. Changed some of the trees here because I felt the tree was just casting a little bit too much shadow, so I took that large tree out. And this is about the right sort of time of the day for this to get its best lighting. So it's supposed to be, this habitat is really supposed to be, again, it's supposed to almost be like a little window into the jaguar's world. So a lot of newer zoos actually make the viewing areas quite small. So you're just kind of peeking through often, so we can just kind of see one back there. We haven't seen the black jaguar yet. Oh, there they are. They're together. And a lot of this habitat is actually hidden as well. So even from the guest view, you can't see it. It's hidden around this corner. And we'll be able to see it in a minute when we do our flyover. So let's, while they're kind of doing their thing in there, let's just go around this corner and we can see the second tunnel and a couple of more of these little peak holes. So what I've done is basically put in these glass pieces, excuse me, glass sections, so you get these little views, but they're not like wherever it's kind of these little cracks and holes you can peek through. I just thought it was quite playful. This old barrier's got to come out when I do the other side. And this is actually habitat glass, so they can't see us from here. This is one-way glass. So let's jump out of Tejicam. We'll fly back in there. In fact, we'll do a flyover general because we haven't generally got a bunch of things outside we've got to tidy up. Bits and pieces, detritus kind of knocking around. But this is what it looks like from outside at the moment. I know I haven't shown it in a few episodes, but as you fly in the top now, it's getting so kind of full and lush in here. It's really great. I'm really loving it. Loving the way that kind of the foliage comes together. So the first thing I wanted to show you was something that I think has changed. This is generally a little bit of a bugbear. I see the message very, very frequently about when you load into the game that my navigation is rebuilding. Now I don't know if that is that my particular build or that Frontier have updated something, but I see this happen really frequently. And what happens is, I haven't touched this habitat in probably about 6 or 7 episodes, and yet suddenly now it's got all of these escape problems. It did have a couple before, but they seem to have kind of got to a point where they can traverse a lot more of the objects than they could before, and I don't really understand why that's happening. So some of these I'm sort of reluctant to fix, because this is actually telling me that they can escape through the barrier by climbing. This is on the other side of this glass. So I'm a little bit reluctant to fix that, because it feels like it's actually just the game being a little bit of an eccentricity of the game rather than anything being wrong with the way I've built it. This potentially acceptable, but it wasn't an issue before, and in fact it doesn't look like they can escape from that weirdly. But let's fly over our Jaguars. So this is all the new section. I'm keeping the guest numbers to a fairly limited number at the moment, just to kind of make the FPS run okay. But this is, as I said, there's a whole sort of behind the scenes section that I didn't really want the guests to be able to get to for now. But the plan is, I think I'm going to try and put a restaurant or something in up here. This is why I've left this this section sort of fairly blank. I think I'm going to have a path coming out from in there that will be like almost like a VIP viewing area. I think that'd be pretty fun. So this is the back. This is more of the back of that staff facility. So just sectioned that area off, created this little bit. You might have noticed something in the speed build that went past fairly quickly. Apologies for that, but kind of always the way in the speed build. But this door here, so I sort of played around, and as you'll see, I've used in a bunch of places. I've used these kind of fake keypads that I created that are supposed to be like almost like a swipe card. You tap your card on it and unlock the door. This one I actually used. Where are we? I lost my way. This one I actually used a habitat gate. Takes a bit of finagling, but this way you get the actual keypad. So I've just kind of put the habitat gate down and then put a door over the top of it. And this is actually the back access into the spider small exhibits, which are actually getting pretty full now. And I really like these little, again, the little kind of peek through spots. And then, so the last thing to show really is just the back, what's going on backstage at the moment. So if we go through the tunnel, so there's nothing enormously exciting in here yet. There's going to be another Jaguar habitat here, another cage, and so this section out here is going to be another pair of Jaguars, and then they'll use this section here, so there'll be another walkway. Not 100% sure what I'm doing here yet. I think I'm going to do something that's like a waterfall that kind of links it together. And then I think we'll probably be getting close to done with this. A bit of backstage work to do still. As I said, there's this amazing cold storage box you can get on the workshop, which again will be links in the description for that, or in the collection for that. So yeah, I think I'll be integrating that in, and then there's going to be a guest path coming down this side. So at the moment we've got where are we? We're inside. Yeah, okay. So yeah, there'll be a guest path coming through here somewhere, going down that way. At the moment it just goes to this kind of little backstage viewing section, but needs a little bit of tidying up, bunch to do. As I said, this needs to be done, and then I think we'll be moving on from the dome, at least for now. I may well come back at some point if Frontier add more stuff to the zoo, to the game that fits into this, then I'll add some more bits in here. But I think we've probably got about another 2 or 3 episodes. I'm definitely ready to move on from it, because it's been a very enjoyable project, but it's starting to get a little bit. I think maybe one of the big problems is working with domes is you get so much shade, you've got these constant shadows all the time, so and especially somewhere you want to put a lot of foliage and things like that. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Massively appreciate all the support and everything in this series, and I shall see you guys on the next one. My name is Toves, and as ever, take it easy.